The station orbiting Harrow wasn't designed for humans. Commander Alya Rourke felt it with every step. The air tasted like dry antiseptic and ozone. The corridor floors shimmered with bioluminescent scales, slick and slightly warm, a feature designed for the thermoreceptive Yeveri delegates. The ceiling pressed too low for comfort. But Alya held her posture, back straight, shoulders square, as if the structure itself might yield to her presence. A chime echoed as she approached the assembly hall. It sounded like something between a heartbeat and a bird's cry. "State your designation," came a voice, smooth but cold. A three-eyed sentry loomed from the shadow, all translucent cartilage and pale, watching her without blinking. "Alya Rourke. Diplomatic envoy. Earth." The sentry hesitated for a moment. "Species: human. Status: probationary. Warning: armed." She tapped the grip of her sidearm. "Standard issue. Safety on. You're welcome." With a faint click, the gateway shimmered open, and Alya stepped into the storm. The assembly hall was a cavernous chamber, walls alive with ambient pulses of blue and green. Delegates sat in suspended platforms arranged in a spiral toward a central podium, a theater of judgment. Species Alya had only seen in databases observed her: tentacled scholars, crystalline philosophers, gaseous collectives in vacuum spheres. And at the highest tier sat Archdelegate Virex Thull, High Chancellor of the Concord of Sapient Species. Alya walked to the center, her boots echoing like defiance. She paused under the podium light. Thull's voice resonated, each word sharp and deliberate. "Commander Rourke, you stand before the Concord seeking admission of your world into the galactic community." "Yes. And yet you come armed." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Old habit. Earth's not exactly a gentle teacher." Laughter murmured across the chamber. Thin, nervous. Thull's eyes narrowed. "We have reviewed your species profile. You are violent. Competitive. You have committed planetary war, genetic engineering atrocities, ecological collapses, on yourselves. And we're still here. That is precisely the concern." Alya's expression hardened. "You fear what we've survived because it reminds you that peace was never your default, just your luxury." A flicker of unrest passed among the delegates. Thull interlaced his clawed digits. "Do you deny that humanity has a higher incidence of lethal conflict than any known sapient race?" "No," Alya said. "But we're more than the sum of our scars." Before Thull could respond, a tremor passed through the station. Lights dimmed. Systems flickered. A delegate, a blue-scaled Varik, rose from their platform. "Emergency alert! Nanite breach detected in Quadrant 3. Security protocols activated." Sirens blared. The hall locked down. "Remain calm," Thull announced. "Containment teams will neutralize the threat." But the walls shifted. Black mist leaked from the floor vents, not smoke. Nanites, loose and self-replicating, moving with eerie coordination. Alya's instincts snapped into place. "You've got active cloud behavior. They're not swarms, they're targeting." One of the smaller species, a Vineland gel-carried diplomat, tripped as the mist coiled around them. Alya didn't wait. She dove forward, dragging the creature clear, shielding them with her body. Her sidearm was in her hand without conscious thought. A single pulse shot dispersed the cluster, but it regrouped almost instantly. "Assembly security deploy," Thull began. Alya grabbed a console panel, overriding it with a hard-coded burst. "Divert environmental controls. Vacuum purge Sector 12. That's illegal under Concord Protocol. Then report me," she snapped. Vents hissed. The cloud scattered. Emergency barriers sealed off the breach. Breathless silence followed. The gel-carried diplomat looked up from Alya's arms. "Why did you protect me?" "Because that's what humans do." Alya stood slowly. Delegates whispered. Some looked wary, others intrigued. Thull's expression didn't change, but something behind his gaze sharpened. "You acted without jurisdiction. Violated protocol. You weaponized a diplomatic chamber. I saved a life. That is irrelevant to procedure. No, Alya said, voice steady. That is the procedure. At least where I come from. Thol stared at her for a long, silent moment. Then, this assembly will convene a tribunal. In 3 cycles, your species will be judged, not by your words, but by what you've shown us. Alya inclined her head. Then I hope you were watching closely. The chamber dimmed as the delegates recessed, murmurs rippling like aftershocks. Alya stood alone in the center, the light above her flickering once, then stabilizing, the only human on a station full of fear. She didn't smile. Not yet. She had 3 cycles to stop the Concord from making humanity extinct. And they'd just given her a stage. The tribunal chamber smelled like copper and judgment. Commander Alya Rourke stood at the interface terminal, flanked by twin security drones that didn't try to hide their weapons. Above her, the judges, 6 in total, each from a dominant Concord species, loomed like abstract statues. No gavel. No ceremony. Just silence waiting to be broken. A translucent ribbon of light flickered to life between her and the high bench. The questioning was about to begin. Thul's voice materialized, filtered through the chamber's translator field. Commander Rourke, today's hearing concerns not just your defense of humanity's right to exist among us, but your qualifications to understand what you asked to join. Alya met the ribbon. I understand fear. That seems to be your shared language. A quiet stir passed through the observers. Some noted her composure. Others, her defiance. Thul gestured, and the chamber dimmed. Let us review history. A projection ignited above the tribunal, a spiraling star chart slowly rotating, then zooming into a sector labeled Grithic Expanse. The voiceover began, sterile, calculated. 6,000 years ago, the Grithic Initiative emerged as a Class 8 threat. Deathworld origin. Hostile to peace negotiations. Armed expansion. Total loss of 5 allied systems. The footage shifted. Explosions. Ash. A planet's surface blackened to glass. Resolution, preemptive sterilization. Full extinction event. Success rate, 99.97%. The image held. A single crater under a green sky. Alya stared. You erased them. Thul didn't blink. We prevented galactic collapse. They didn't even get a trial. They had their nature. So do you. Alya inhaled. You're not afraid of humans. You're afraid of being wrong again. Another judge, a crystalline being known as Ulix, leaned forward. Your species shares biological markers with Grithic-level threat types. Pain tolerance. Emotional aggression. High reproductive variance. You evolve under stress. We adapt under pressure. She corrected. Not the same thing. Ulix blinked in rapid patterns. Define the difference. Alya keyed her wrist pad. A new projection appeared, a human child helping lift another from rubble after a bombing. No weapons. Just blood and urgency. We don't endure because we dominate. We endure because we carry each other. Thul's tone hardened. Yet your own history records self-inflicted near extinction. Yes, Alya said plainly. And that's why we're qualified to warn you. The chamber grew still. A moment later, her wrist pad pinged with an encrypted message. Untraceable, anonymous. Just 5 words. Check Central Archive, Floor 0. She didn't hesitate. Floor 0 wasn't on the public schematics. No science. No access terminals. Alya followed ventilation seams and power trails until a narrow maintenance shaft yielded a concealed hatch. Inside, dark, stale air, and silence. She moved slowly, past decommissioned consoles and inert surveillance nodes. Then the pulse of something active, a single working terminal glowing faint amber. She approached and placed her hand on the sensor. No resistance. A stream of restricted data opened like a wound. Project Silence Seed. She scanned. Records. Audio. Visual. Confessions. The Grithic hadn't initiated war. They responded to Concord aggression after rejecting bioimplant compliance. The CSS had offered peace, then deployed a covert bioweapon under diplomatic cover. The retaliation was labeled unprovoked. The sterilization justified as mercy. Alya leaned back, eyes closed. They were the test run. Her earpiece clicked. A voice whispered, "Now you understand." She turned. No one there. Later, at the tribunal antechamber, she met her only ally so far, Drenna, a six-limbed delegate from the pacifisted Kiv species. Soft-spoken. Always watching. "You found it," Drenna said without preface. "You sent the message?" A tilt of the head. "Not directly. But some of us have always doubted the official story." Alya's jaw tensed. "They're trying to repeat it." Drenna nodded. "They fear entropy. You represent it." "No," Alya said. "I represent the truth. They just haven't had to face it in centuries." "You plan to reveal it?" "During the final vote." Drenna's voice dropped. "If you do, they will not just deny you. They will silence you." Alya smiled without warmth. "Then I'll make it loud." The next session began with renewed scrutiny. Alya stood once again beneath the tribunal's gaze, but now her posture had changed. No longer defensive. Measured. Anchored. Thel looked down. "You've had time to reflect. Do you withdraw your claim?" "No," she said. "I have a counterclaim." The chamber reacted like a stirred hive. She raised a projection file, unlocked from the archive, and cast it into the room. Silence dropped like stone. Footage played. A Concord envoy deploying aerosol neurotoxins under diplomatic clearance. Grythic civilians collapsing. Children. Unarmed. Screams. Delegates whispered. Others turned away. Alya's voice cut through the silence. "This was not a war. It was a purge." Thel rose, not speaking. "You told the galaxy you destroyed a threat. But you created it, then buried the evidence. And now you want to do it again." A judge began to object. Alya raised her hand. "Earth won't be your next Grythic. Not quietly. Not without a voice." For the first time, Thel's face cracked. A flicker of unease. Not fear. Recognition. Alya stepped forward. "You think peace is the absence of danger. But peace bought with silence isn't peace. It's anesthesia. And humans? We don't stay asleep for long." She walked out before they could vote. Let them decide in the shadow of truth. Alya didn't sleep. Her quarters were silent, dark, and cold, engineered for species that required none of those comforts. She sat on the floor, knees up, watching the encrypted data scroll across her holopad. The evidence was irrefutable. Concord genocide. Political suppression. Erasure by design. But truth alone wouldn't win this. It never had. Her comlink chirped, 2 beeps, a pause, then 3. The pattern used only by her Earth-based backup team. She tapped it. "Go." Lieutenant Soren's voice came through low and steady. "We intercepted chatter. You've been flagged as a destabilizing threat. There's a kill order circulating, off record." Alya stood, spine stiffening. "Who signed it?" "Unknown. Encryption's third-level diplomatic clearance. Only High Command could authorize." "Understood. Prep fallback channel and emergency broadcast loop. If I don't check in within 12 hours, send everything to OpenNet." "Copy that. Stay sharp." The line cut. She holstered her weapon, keyed open the door, and stepped into a corridor already too quiet. She was being hunted. The station's lower decks were maintenance corridors, narrow, unlit, and pulsing with the faint hum of coolant lines. Alya moved fast but deliberately, each footstep placed with purpose. She knew they'd send operatives with neural dampeners, to disorient, not kill outright. An accidental seizure was easier to explain. The first one came at the bend, humanoid frame, featureless helmet, moving like water. A stun baton hummed as it whipped through the air toward her neck. Alya ducked, pivoted low, and drove an elbow into the operative's ribcage. The baton clattered to the ground. She seized it, reversed her grip, and jabbed hard into the attacker's side. A crackle, a grunt, and the figure dropped. She didn't wait to check. The second came from above, descending from a ceiling grate. Alya was faster. A snap kick to the knee, baton to the helmet, 1, 2, and he was down, twitching. She kept moving. They weren't guards. These were internal agents. Quiet disposal teams. And someone high up wanted her gone before she could speak again. She reached the emergency lift shaft and climbed. Her arms ached. Her heart pounded. Sweat blurred her vision, but she refused to stop. Floor by floor she advanced. When she emerged on the diplomatic tier, her clothes were streaked with grease, her knuckles bloodied, but her eyes were clear. Drenna was waiting. The Atkiv's head tilted. "You're late. Had a rough commute." Drenna gestured behind them. "They're calling an emergency assembly. No press. No record. They want to shut it down before it gets public." Drenna's voice dropped. "Virex proposed immediate expulsion. He has support." Alya met their gaze. "Then I'll force their hand." "Doing what?" She straightened her jacket. "Activating the Deathworld Protocol." Drenna's eyes widened. "That's forbidden. Only for species who don't qualify." Drenna said nothing for a moment, then simply stepped aside. "Good luck, Commander." The assembly chamber buzzed with tension. Delegates filled the room, faces tense, antennae twitching, eyes narrowed. There were no lights, no reporters. Just silence and unease. Virex Stull stood at the center, arms raised. "Commander Rourke has violated assembly neutrality, released unauthorized archives, and endangered station security. We motion for her immediate return to her system under Concord escort." Alya stepped forward, voice clear. "Denied." The room rippled with sound, outrage, confusion. Virex turned. "You have no authority here." She pulled a crystal disc from her belt and slotted it into the assembly console. The lights flickered. A low tone echoed. A symbol lit the main screen, Delta W12, Deathworld Protocol, Class 12. Murmurs became alarm. The protocol hadn't been used in 1,000 years. "Under interspecies law," Alya said calmly, "any representative of a Class 12 Death World may invoke the protocol to challenge diplomatic expulsion by tribunal duel, symbolic or physical." "You seek to duel me?" Virex asked, incredulous. "No," she said. "I challenge you on truth." The screen split. One side showed Grithic genocide footage. The other, humanity's endurance through nuclear winters, extinction events, collapse and rebuild, always survival. "This is our argument," Alya said. "You silenced a species out of fear once. You won't do it again." Virex's jaw clenched. "You stand before this body wielding blood and chaos. I stand here survived." Another delegate, a tall aquatic being, rose. "Is this a declaration of hostility?" "No," Alya replied. "It's a declaration of identity. This is who we are. You invited us to prove our nature. Here it is." A silence settled, thick and waiting. Ulix, the crystalline judge, leaned forward. "Proceed." The dual chamber wasn't made for violence, more a place for symbolism. A circle of light. Two figures. Two philosophies. Alya stood at one end, unarmed by choice. Virex stood across, wearing ceremonial robes laced with bioweave threads that shifted with his heartbeat. "Do you understand the terms?" Ulix asked. Alya nodded. "This is not a contest of death, but of meaning. Convince us." Virex spoke first. "Humanity is entropy incarnate. They rose not through harmony, but dominance. They create threats, then claim survival as virtue. They are not a species. They are a reaction." He turned, sweeping the room with sharp eyes. "We cannot allow that into our peace." Alya stepped forward. "You call us entropy," she said. "But entropy is the end of systems. We build systems after every fall. We're not chaos. We're the answer to it. She walked slowly, each word deliberate. We are violent, yes. But not because we choose to be. Because we had no other choice. Our planet tried to kill us every century. We adapted. We persisted. We learned. And now you fear what that means for your perfect stasis. She stopped. But peace without challenge is stagnation. And safety without truth is fiction. If you let fear write your laws, then you don't deserve the future you claim to protect. The silence afterward was not empty. It was heavy. Processing. Ulick stood. The vote will be conducted. Until then, both parties will withdraw. Vyrex's expression was unreadable. Alya turned, walked out of the chamber, and felt the weight of the future press hard between her shoulder blades. She'd survived the protocol. Now came the verdict. The vote chamber was dead quiet. No fanfare. No media. No preamble. Just 63 voting platforms suspended in circular tiers, each occupied by a delegate representing one of the galaxy's founding species. Floating above them was the Verity Core, a sentient AI mediator older than most civilizations present. Commander Alya Rourke stood alone on the central platform, one spotlight narrowing in around her like the last chapter of a history book. Drenna stood behind the partition wall, not as an ally now, but as a witness. Silent. Watchful. A voice from the Verity Core began. We convene under Article 9, Final Judgment. No emotion. No opinion. Just the law as written. Motion, humanity's provisional membership. Decision pending tribunal review and vote. Vyrex Thull's platform descended, placing him on level with Alya. He didn't speak. His presence alone was a closing argument. Regal. Composed. Dangerous. The first vote flickered onto the display wall. Yevery, no. Followed by Grelick, no. Then Sereth, abstain. Tension crawled through the room like static. Alya didn't flinch. Another vote, Thalaxi, yes. Then 3 more, no. No. Abstain. She could feel the shift. Some of them expected her to break, to plead. She did neither. Her silence was louder than apology. Then the Atkiv platform lit up. Drenna stood. They spoke slowly, each syllable clear. My people remember the Grithic silence. It stained us. We were there. We said nothing. We will not repeat that mistake. We vote yes. More murmurs. Delegates exchanged unreadable glances. The board continued, orally, yes. Falks, yes. Drunel, no. Tally, 27 yes. 28 number 8 abstain. 1 vote left. Vyrex turned to Alya. You made your stand. But a stand is not enough. She looked at him. You're right. But silence isn't safety. It's cowardice dressed as peace. Vyrex raised his chin. And what would humanity do if admitted? Bring war? No, she said, eyes unwavering. We bring resilience. And we never come alone. That's what you still don't understand. The final platform descended. Roland Consortium. Historically neutral. Entirely robotic. Guided by probability, not politics. The Roland representative was a smooth-bodied automaton with a humming vocal chamber. We have run 38,921 future models, it said. In 94.7% of outcomes, humanity's inclusion destabilizes short-term inter-species relations. A few nods, satisfied. Then, but in 100% of collapse scenarios, humanity is the species that endures and rebuilds. A long pause. We vote yes. The chamber didn't explode. It just stopped. Then the Verity Core spoke again. Vote complete. Majority reached. Humanity is granted Concord membership with independent autonomy. Implantation waiver granted. Provisional status upgraded to conditional. Alya released the breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Not victory. Survival. Earned, not given. She turned to Virex, who hadn't moved. His expression remained neutral, but something inside him had cracked. Not broken, adjusted. You've bought yourselves time, he said. No, she replied. We earned a seat. Time is what you bought by denying others. Virex said nothing more. He turned and ascended back into his tier. The chamber dispersed slowly, rippling outward like concentric circles after a stone strikes still water. Alya stood for a moment longer, feeling the weight shift off her shoulders, replaced by something heavier, responsibility. Later, in the outer gardens, a quiet dome with simulated sun and imported Terran grass, Drenna approached. You've changed something, they said. For better or worse? For real. Alya glanced up at the sky, which wasn't really a sky, just a painted curve above. Earth's watching. Some will call it a win. Others a trap. They're both right, Drenna replied. Change always feels like a trap before it becomes history. Alya smiled faintly. You always speak in riddles? Only when the truth's too sharp. A short silence. Then, you're not safe, Drenna added. Virex isn't finished. He doesn't lose. He waits. I know. What will you do? She looked down at the grass, her boots still coated in dust from the lift shaft. Build. Learn. Listen. Fight, only if we have to. Drenna offered a subtle bow. That might be the most dangerous answer of all. Alya turned away, heading back toward the station's inner ring where her diplomatic quarters awaited. She had messages to send. A team to gather. A future to prepare for. The galaxy had just opened its doors to humanity. Now they'd see what walked through.